I woke up to 3 identical banking notifications that would destroy my family forever. It was 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning in my small Portland apartment. The kind of morning where everything feels normal until it suddenly isn't. I reached for my phone, still half asleep, expecting the usual, maybe a subscription renewal or my coffee shop charge from yesterday. But there were 3 notifications. All identical. All from American Airlines. My stomach dropped before my brain even processed what I was seeing. I sat up in bed, my heart already racing, and unlocked my phone with trembling fingers. Each notification showed the same amount, $4,280. 3 times. Charged to my credit card at 3:14 a.m. while I was asleep. No, I whispered to my empty bedroom. No, no, no. Total damage, $12,840. My name is Riley Morrison, and I'm a 29-year-old financial analyst living in Portland, Oregon. I've spent the last 6 years of my life building a career in corporate finance, paying off $62,000 in student loans, and carefully constructing the stable, independent life my parents never had. I'm the person my colleagues come to when they need budget advice. The one who's never missed a payment, never overdrafted an account, never made a careless financial decision. And someone had just stolen nearly $13,000 from me while I slept. My hands shook as I opened my banking app and navigated to the transaction details. 3 first-class tickets to Hawaii. Departure date, June 15th. Names on the reservations, James Morrison, Diana Morrison, Tyler Morrison, my father, my mother, my younger brother. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The room seemed to tilt sideways, and I had to grip the edge of my mattress to steady myself. This wasn't a random hacker in another country. This wasn't identity theft by some stranger who'd somehow gotten my credit card number. This was my family. I stumbled out of bed and into my kitchen, my mind racing. I needed coffee. I needed to think. I needed this to make sense somehow, even though I already knew it wouldn't. My phone buzzed with a text message as the coffee maker gurgled to life. Mom's name appeared on the screen, and for one insane second, I thought maybe she was texting to apologize, to explain, to tell me this was all a terrible mistake. The message read, "Thank you so much for the generous gift, sweetie. Your father and Tyler are so excited. You're the best daughter anyone could ask for. We love you. Red heart, red heart, red heart." My coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered on the kitchen floor. I stood there, staring at the broken ceramic and spreading coffee like it was evidence at a crime scene. Because that's exactly what it was. Evidence. My mother had just texted me a confession, wrapped in emojis and fake gratitude. Let me back up and explain how I got here. How a family vacation turned into the worst betrayal of my life. 3 weeks ago, my mother created a family group chat called Morrison Family Paradise Trip 2024. I remember rolling my eyes when I saw the notification. Mom had a habit of making grand announcements in group chats. Everything from her latest diet to detailed reports about her garden tomatoes. The first message in the chat read, "Riley has generously offered to sponsor our family vacation to Maui. Let's all say thank you to our amazing daughter/sister. Hibiscus airplane, beach with umbrella." I was at work when I saw it, sitting in a quarterly budget meeting with my boss and 3 senior analysts. I felt my face flush hot as I quickly typed back, "Mom, I never said that. We need to talk about this privately." But the damage was done. Within minutes, Dad had replied with, "That's my girl. Always taking care of family." Tyler, my 26-year-old brother who still lived with our parents rent-free, added, "Sweet. Thanks, sis. First class all the way." Smiling face with sunglasses. The messages kept coming from extended family. Aunt Melissa congratulated me on my success and generosity. Cousin Jake asked if he could come too. Uncle Paul sent a gif of someone throwing money in the air. I tried to shut it down immediately. I sent private messages to my mother. I did not volunteer to pay for a family vacation. Please correct this in the group chat. Her response came 2 hours later. "Oh honey, you know you mentioned this at Thanksgiving. Don't you remember? We were all talking about Maui, and you said it would be your treat since you got that big promotion. Stop being so modest." Smiling face with smiling eyes. This was a lie. A complete, calculated lie. I hadn't been at Thanksgiving dinner. I'd worked a double shift that week covering for a sick colleague and spent Thanksgiving eating takeout Chinese food alone in my apartment. I'd sent my parents a text wishing them a happy holiday. That was the extent of my Thanksgiving interaction. But Mom was rewriting history, and she was doing it in front of the entire family. 4 days after that initial group chat message, Mom announced a family video call to discuss trip details. I logged on from my kitchen table, already dreading what was coming. The screen filled with faces. Mom and Dad sat together on their living room couch, Tyler lounging in a recliner behind them. Aunt Melissa joined from her car. Cousin Jake was eating what looked like a burrito, barely paying attention. Riley. Mom's voice was sugar-sweet, with an edge underneath like a knife wrapped in cotton candy. We're so excited to plan this trip you're gifting us. Mom, I need to be clear, I said, keeping my voice calm and professional. I did not offer to pay for anyone's vacation. I can't afford to spend that kind of money right now. The screen went silent for a beat. Then Mom laughed, this light, dismissive laugh that made my stomach clench. Oh, sweetie, I know you're trying to be humble, but we all heard you at Thanksgiving. Stop being so modest. Now, I've been looking at flights. Economy seats are running about $860 per person. I know that's a lot, but it's worth it for family memories, right? I noticed she was looking at Dad when she said this, not at me. Dad nodded along, his expression unreadable. If anyone can't afford their own ticket, Mom continued, her eyes sweeping across the other participants, then I guess they'll have to stay home. Family vacations are for people who can contribute. The implication was clear. This was aimed at me. She was publicly pressuring me, using the family as an audience, banking on the fact that I'd be too embarrassed to refuse in front of everyone. I'm not paying for tickets, I said firmly. My budget doesn't allow for it. Tyler snorted from his recliner. Come on, Ree. You make like 6 figures at that corporate job. Don't be cheap. I make $71,000 a year, I corrected him, anger starting to bubble up. And I have student loans, rent, and my own bills. I'm not being cheap. I'm being realistic. Well, Mom said, her voice taking on a hurt tone, I suppose we'll just have to cancel the whole thing then. I'd hate for the family to miss out because of financial stress. Riley, honey, maybe you should talk to someone about budgeting? I worry about you. She was turning this around, making me look like the problem, making it seem like I was the one with financial issues, when in reality, I knew for a fact that my parents were drowning in debt. Last year, they'd asked me to help them file their taxes. I'd seen everything. 2 mortgages on a house worth less than they owed. Credit cards maxed out at $43,000 total. Car loans on vehicles they couldn't afford. Dad's failing small business that hadn't turned a profit in 3 years. They lived a lifestyle of fake prosperity. New furniture every few months, designer clothes, expensive dinners out, all on credit they couldn't repay. And now they wanted me to fund their fantasy vacation too. I left that video call feeling sick to my stomach. I immediately sent Mom another private message. I will not be paying for any part of this trip. Please stop telling people I will. Her response was chilling in its simplicity. We'll see. And now, 3 weeks later, I was standing in my kitchen with broken ceramic at my feet and $12,840 stolen from my credit card. I called my bank's fraud department with shaking hands, my coffee forgotten, my morning routine shattered along with my mug. Fraud department, this is Marcus speaking. How can I help you? Someone charged nearly $13,000 to my credit card without my permission, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I need to dispute the charges and freeze my account. Marcus asked for my details, which I provided mechanically. Account number, social security number, the transaction information. And do you know who made these unauthorized charges? He asked. I hesitated for just a second. This was the moment, the point of no return. Yes, I said. It was my mother, Diana Morrison. Another pause on his end. I see. Since you've identified the person who committed the fraud, I need to inform you that to proceed with the dispute and protect your account, you'll need to file a police report for identity theft. The words hung in the air between us. A police report. Against my own mother. What happens if I file the report? I asked. We'll begin a formal investigation. The charges will be disputed. If fraud is confirmed, the funds will be returned to your account and the airline will be notified. Your mother could face criminal charges depending on how the investigation proceeds. I thought about my student loans, paid off through 6 years of 60-hour work weeks, and living on ramen and frozen vegetables. I thought about my tiny apartment that I'd saved for years to afford. I thought about every sacrifice I'd made to build financial stability. And I thought about my mother, texting me thank yous for a gift she'd stolen. I'll file the report, I said. The The moment I ended the call with the bank, my phone exploded. First came a text from Tyler. Yo, what the hell? The airline just called Mom. They canceled our tickets. Fix this now. Then Dad. Riley and Morrison, you call your mother immediately. She is devastated. Then Mom. How could you do this to me? To your family? The airline said you reported fraud. We told everyone about this trip. You've humiliated us. Call me right now. I set my phone face down on the counter and finished making a new cup of coffee. My hands had stopped shaking. Something cold and clear had settled over me, like ice forming over water. This was just the beginning. I was halfway through getting dressed for work when I heard the pounding on my apartment door. 3 heavy blows. Pause. 3 more. My father's signature knock, loud enough to intimidate, space to let fear build between impacts. I'd heard that knock my entire childhood. It meant trouble. It meant someone was in trouble, and my father was coming to deliver consequences. I pulled my blazer on and checked my phone. 7:52 a.m. Dad had driven 40 minutes across town to my apartment before 8 in the morning. I grabbed my phone and opened the voice recording app. Oregon is a one-party consent state, which means only one person in a conversation needs to know it's being recorded. My 6 years in corporate finance had taught me one crucial lesson: document everything. I opened the door. My father stood there, face flushed red above his polo shirt, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. He'd clearly driven straight here from home. His hair was uncombed, and he was still wearing his house slippers. What the hell did you do? He said, his voice low and dangerous. Good morning to you too, Dad, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Would you like to come in, or would you prefer to yell at me in the hallway where all my neighbors can hear? He pushed past me into my apartment, and I carefully left the door open. I wanted witnesses if this got worse. Fix it, he demanded, turning to face me. Call the bank right now and tell them you made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake, I said calmly. Someone charged $12,840 to my credit card without my permission. That's called fraud. It's not fraud when it's family. His voice was rising now, echoing off my apartment walls. Your mother was doing what you promised. I never promised anything, I said. Mom lied. You know she lied. I wasn't even at Thanksgiving dinner, Dad. I worked that day. I sent you all a text. His eyes flickered, just for a second. That tiny tell that meant he knew I was right. That doesn't matter, he said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. Family helps family. When Tyler needed bail money last year, we paid it. Tyler got arrested for drunk driving, I pointed out. That's not the same as stealing someone's credit card. We didn't steal anything. Dad's voice hit that dangerous pitch again. You're the one with the good job and no responsibilities. No husband, no kids. What else are you spending your money on? And there it was. The real accusation underneath everything else. I was selfish for not having a family. Selfish for focusing on my career. Selfish for wanting to keep the money I earned. Dad, I said slowly, I saw your tax returns last year. You're $43,000 in credit card debt. You have 2 mortgages on a house that's underwater. Your business hasn't made a profit in 3 years. You and Mom are drowning, and instead of facing that, you're trying to steal from me to fund a vacation you can't afford. His face went from red to purple. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Look at the actual numbers. My voice was still calm, but something fierce was rising in my chest. I'm a financial analyst, Dad. It's literally my job to see patterns in numbers. And the pattern here is crystal clear. Your mother and I gave you everything, he said, and suddenly his voice was different. Tired. Old. We sacrificed for you. And this is how you repay us. By getting my credit card stolen. I asked. By having nearly $13,000 charged while I was asleep? That's repayment. It's family money, he said. What's yours is the family's. That's how it works. No, I said firmly. That's not how it works. That's not how it's ever worked. What's mine is mine because I earned it. Mom accessed my accounts without permission, changed my email password so I wouldn't get notifications, and made charges she knew I wouldn't approve. That's not family. That's theft. Dad stared at me for a long moment. I could see him trying to find another angle, another way to make this my fault. The police, he finally said. You actually filed a police report against your own mother. Yes. Do you know what this will do to her? To us. Do you know what it would do to me if I let this go? I countered. What it would tell you about my boundaries. That you can steal from me and I'll just accept it because we're family. You'll regret this, Dad said quietly. Your mother won't forget. I won't forget. You're choosing money over your own family. No, I said. You're the ones who chose money over family. I'm just refusing to be the ATM anymore. He left without another word, and I closed the door behind him. Only then did I realize I was shaking again, adrenaline flooding my system now that the confrontation was over. I checked my phone. The recording had captured everything. By the time I got to work, my phone had logged 23 missed calls and 47 text messages. Mom, I can't believe you'd do this to me. After everything I've done for you. Tyler, you're dead to me. Hope your money keeps you company since you clearly don't care about family. Aunt Melissa, I'm so disappointed in you, Riley. Your mother is heartbroken. Cousin Jake, that's cold what you did. Family is supposed to stick together. Uncle Paul, you need to make this right. Nobody in this family will respect you after this. I sat at my desk, staring at the messages. They'd gotten to everyone first. Told their version of the story. I was the villain in their narrative. The ungrateful daughter who refused to help her struggling parents, who filed police reports over a misunderstanding, who chose money over love. My coworker Sarah stopped by my desk. Hey, you okay? You look upset. I almost said I'm fine. The automatic response. But something in me had shifted. Not really, I admitted. Family emergency. Or maybe family implosion is more accurate. Sarah sat down in the chair across from my desk. Want to talk about it? And to my surprise, I did. I told her everything. The group chat. The fake Thanksgiving promise. The stolen credit card charges. The police report. Her face went through a journey of emotions, shock, anger, disbelief. Wait, she said when I finished. Your mom charged first-class tickets? But told the family they were $860 economy seats. I blinked. I'd been so focused on the unauthorized charges that I hadn't fully processed that detail. She told everyone they were $860, I said slowly. But she charged $4,280 each. 3 tickets times $4,280. That's $12,840, Sarah finished. Which means she pocketed, or planned to pocket, over $10,000 of the difference. The realization hit me like cold water. This wasn't just about a family vacation. This was a con. Mom had planned to tell everyone I'd paid for economy tickets, make them chip in or feel guilty, then use my stolen money to upgrade to first class and pocket the difference. Oh my God, I whispered. That's not just theft, Sarah said. That's fraud. Planned, calculated fraud. I pulled up my banking app and went back through my statements. I'd been so careful with my money, checking my accounts weekly, monitoring every transaction. But now I was looking for something different. Small charges. Test runs. And I found them. A $27.43 charge at a gas station in Beaverton last month. I'd been in downtown Portland that day. A $15.99 Netflix subscription upgrade I never authorized. A $43.22 grocery store charge from a store I never shop at. Small amounts. Spread out over months. Each one just under the threshold that would make me immediately call the bank. She's been testing my account, I said out loud. Seeing how much she could take before I noticed. Sarah leaned forward. Riley, you need to report all of this. Not just the plane tickets. Everything. I spent my lunch break at the police station, sitting in a hard plastic chair while Officer Chin took my statement. I showed her the messages, the bank statements, the pattern of unauthorized charges going back for months. Your mother had access to your email recovery account? Officer Chin asked, typing notes into her computer. She set it up years ago when I first went to college, I explained. She said it was so she could help me if I ever got locked out of my accounts. I'd forgotten it even existed. And she's been using it to access your accounts without your knowledge. Yes. Officer Chin looked up from her screen. Ms. Morrison, what you're describing isn't just simple fraud. This is sustained financial exploitation. Identity theft. Possibly wire fraud since she used interstate communications and airlines. The fact that it's your mother doesn't make it less serious. It actually makes it worse because she exploited a position of trust. What happens now? I asked. We'll open a formal investigation. The detective assigned to your case will contact the bank, the airline, and anyone else involved. If the evidence supports criminal charges, which based on what you've shown me, it does, the district attorney will decide whether to prosecute. Will my parents go to jail? Officer Chen's expression softened slightly. That depends on a lot of factors. The amount stolen, their criminal history, whether they try to make restitution. But Riley, this is serious. Your mother committed multiple felonies. I left the police station feeling numb. The reality of what was happening was starting to sink in. This wasn't going to blow over. This wasn't a family squabble we'd laugh about in a few years. This was going to tear my family apart forever. My phone buzzed with a new text. Aunt Melissa. Emergency family meeting tonight at my house. 7 p.m. You need to be there. I stared at the message. An emergency family meeting meant one thing: an ambush. Everyone would be there, united against me, demanding I drop the charges and apologize to Mom. I could ignore it. Stay home. Avoid the confrontation. But I'd spent my whole life avoiding confrontation, trying to keep the peace, prioritizing family harmony over my own well-being. Not anymore. I texted back. I'll be there. I arrived at Aunt Melissa's house at exactly 7 p.m. Not early enough to be cornered alone, not late enough to be accused of avoiding them. Precision timing. One of the few advantages of a career spent managing schedules and deadlines. There were 7 cars in the driveway. My entire extended family had shown up. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering myself. My phone sat on the passenger seat, recording app already running. In my bag, I had printed copies of my bank statements with the fraudulent charges highlighted, the police report number written in the margin. Evidence. Always bring evidence. I walked up the front steps and let myself in. The conversation in the living room stopped instantly, 12 pairs of eyes turning toward me like searchlights. Mom sat in the center of the couch, flanked by Aunt Melissa and Aunt Donna. She looked smaller somehow, her shoulders hunched, tissues clutched in one hand. She dressed carefully for this, a simple blouse, minimal makeup, the picture of a wounded mother betrayed by her ungrateful daughter. Dad stood near the doorway with Uncle Paul, arms crossed, blocking the easiest exit. Tyler sprawled in an armchair, looking at his phone, but I could tell from the tension in his jaw that he was paying close attention. Cousin Jake and his girlfriend occupied the love seat. Aunt Donna's 3 kids, all younger than me, sat on the floor, trying to look like they weren't absolutely thrilled to witness family drama. Riley, Aunt Melissa said, her voice dripping with false warmth. Thank you for coming. Please sit down. She gestured to a single chair positioned directly across from my mother. The interrogation seat. I sat down without protest, placing my bag at my feet within easy reach. So, Aunt Melissa continued, clearly designated as the family spokesperson. We're all here because we're very concerned. About your mother, obviously, but also about you. Concerned how? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Honey, you filed a police report against your own mother. Aunt Donna jumped in. Over a misunderstanding about a family vacation. Don't you think that's extreme? It wasn't a misunderstanding, I said calmly. It was $12,840 in unauthorized charges to my credit card. But Riley, Cousin Jake leaned forward, his voice earnest. Your mom thought you'd offered to pay. She mentioned it to all of us. Multiple times. Are you sure you didn't say something that she misinterpreted? I looked at Mom. She was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, not meeting my gaze. I wasn't at Thanksgiving dinner, I said clearly, where Mom claims I made this offer. I worked that day and sent a text wishing everyone a happy holiday. There's no possible way I could have promised to pay for plane tickets at a dinner I didn't attend. Silence. Aunt Melissa's eyes flickered to Mom. Well, maybe it was another time, Aunt Melissa said quickly. Your mom isn't always great with dates, you know that. There was no other time, I said. I never offered to pay for this trip. Not at Thanksgiving. Not ever. But you make good money, Tyler spoke up from his chair, still not looking at me. And we're family. Would it really have killed you to help out? I do make decent money, I agreed. Which I earned through 60-hour work weeks and 6 years of climbing a very competitive corporate ladder. That doesn't make it family money. Mom finally spoke, her voice small and trembling. I just wanted one nice family memory before your father and I get too old. One trip where we could all be together. Was that really so wrong? The guilt tactic. I felt it trying to take hold, that familiar squeeze in my chest that said I was being selfish, unreasonable, difficult. Mom, I said slowly, the tickets weren't $860 each like you told everyone. They were $4,280 each. First class. You lied to the family about the price. Another silence, heavier this time. First class. Aunt Melissa turned to Mom. You said economy. Mom's face flushed. The economy tickets were sold out. I had to book what was available. At 3 a.m? I asked. While I was asleep. Using my email account that you'd accessed without my permission. I have access to your email for emergencies. Mom shot back, some of her usual sharpness returning. You gave me permission years ago. I gave you recovery email access when I was 18 and going to college, I corrected. That was 11 years ago, and it was supposed to be for helping me if I got locked out. Not for stealing my credit card information and making unauthorized purchases. Dad stepped forward from his position by the door. Nobody stole anything. Your mother made a mistake. She thought she had permission. That's not theft. I reached into my bag and pulled out the printed bank statements. Then explain these, I said, passing the papers to Aunt Melissa. Small charges starting 4 months ago. A gas station in Beaverton when I was downtown. A grocery store I never shop at. Netflix subscription changes I didn't make. She's been testing my account for months, seeing what she could take before I noticed. Aunt Melissa's eyes widened as she scanned the highlighted transactions. She passed the papers to Aunt Donna, who went pale. Paula, Aunt Donna said quietly. These dates, this is planned. Everyone makes mistakes with online payments, Mom said quickly, but her voice had lost its wounded quality. Now she just sounded defensive. Maybe I accidentally used Riley's card instead of mine. 12 times. I asked. Over 4 months? You accidentally used my card 12 times. Uncle Paul cleared his throat. Look, this is getting heated. Maybe we all need to calm down and… Did she steal from you too? I interrupted, looking at him directly. He blinked, confused. What? No, of course not. Are you sure? I turned to Aunt Melissa. Last year when you had that expensive roof repair? The one Mom helped you set up online payment for? Did you check your credit card statements carefully? Aunt Melissa's face changed. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm asking if you've actually verified that all the charges on your cards are legitimate. Of course they are, Aunt Melissa said, but her hand had moved instinctively to her purse. Because according to my bank's fraud department, I continued, this kind of theft almost never happens in isolation. People who commit financial fraud against one family member usually target multiple family members. This is ridiculous, Dad said. You're making your mother sound like some kind of criminal. She committed a crime, I said flatly. Multiple crimes, actually. Identity theft. Wire fraud. Financial exploitation. Those aren't opinions, Dad. Those are legal definitions. Tyler finally looked up from his phone. So what? You're just going to send Mom to jail? Over money. This isn't about money, I said, and I could hear my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. This is about the fact that Mom stole from me. That she planned it for months. That she lied to all of you about what she was doing. And that when I discovered it and tried to protect myself, everyone in this room decided I was the problem. You filed a police report, Mom said, and now there were no tears. Just cold anger. Against your own mother. What kind of daughter does that? The kind who's tired of being an ATM, I replied. The kind who spent 6 years paying off student loans and building financial stability while you and Dad drown in credit card debt and keep buying things you can't afford. The kind who's done enabling your fantasy lifestyle. How dare you? Dad started forward, but Uncle Paul caught his arm. Wait, Aunt Melissa said, still staring at the bank statements. Paula, these charges, some of them are on days we went shopping together. That grocery store in Hillsborough, we went there for my birthday. Did you use Riley's card? Mom's face had gone very still. I don't remember. You don't remember? Aunt Melissa's voice was sharp now. A $43 grocery charge on my birthday? Check your statements, I said to everyone in the room. All of you. Look for charges that seem slightly off. Different stores than usual. Amounts that don't quite match what you remember spending. Look especially at charges that happened after Mom helped you set up online payments or borrowed your card for an emergency. Aunt Donna had already pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen as she logged into her banking app. There's a Nordstrom charge here for $237, she said slowly. In March. I haven't shopped at Nordstrom in over a year. I helped you buy that gift card for Jenna's graduation, Mom said quickly. You asked me to pick it up. The graduation was in June, Aunt Donna said, her voice flat. This charge is from March. The room had gone very quiet. Cousin Jake was checking his phone now too. There's a charge here from a furniture store in January. $380. But we didn't buy any furniture in January. Remember when I borrowed your card because I'd left mine at home? Mom's voice had risen, taking on a desperate quality. That was for the lamp for your apartment. The lamp that cost $40, Jake said slowly. Not $380. One by one, they were all checking their accounts now. The room filled with the quiet sounds of phone notifications, muttered curses, shocked gasps. Tyler still sat in his chair, but he'd gone very pale. Mom, he said quietly, remember when you needed to use my card for gas last year? A $40 fill up? Mom didn't answer. There are 4 charges here, Tyler continued, his voice shaking. From that same day. $40, $85, $120, and $67. All at different stores. You're all ganging up on me, Mom said, standing abruptly. My own family, treating me like a criminal over a few confused transactions. $1,240, Aunt Donna said, her voice cutting through Mom's words. That's how much I'm finding in charges I don't recognize. All from the 6 months after you helped me set up my online banking. $892, Cousin Jake said. $2,100, Aunt Melissa whispered, scrolling through her phone with shaking hands. Oh my God, Paula. $2,100. Mom's composure finally cracked. You all have money. You never have to worry about bills or keeping up appearances. You don't understand what it's like to struggle. So you stole from us? Aunt Melissa's voice was ice. From your own family? I borrowed, Mom shouted. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time. With what money? I asked quietly. You and Dad are $43,000 in credit card debt. You have 2 mortgages on a house that's underwater. Dad's business loses money every month. Where were you going to get thousands of dollars to pay everyone back? Mom turned on me, her face twisted with rage. This is your fault. You started this. If you'd just kept your mouth shut and paid for the trip like a good daughter, none of this would have happened. If I'd kept quiet, I said, you would have stolen $12,840 from me and moved on to your next victim. This would have continued until you destroyed everyone in this room financially. Dad had slumped into a chair, his head in his hands. Tyler sat frozen, staring at nothing. Aunt Melissa stood up, her phone in her hand. I'm calling my bank. First thing tomorrow, I'm filing fraud reports for every charge I didn't authorize. So am I, Aunt Donna said. Me too, Jake added. Mom looked around the room at the family that had, minutes ago, been united in defending her. Now they were united against her. And the betrayal on her face would have been heartbreaking if I didn't know exactly how calculated her earlier performance had been. You'll regret this, Mom said, her voice shaking with fury. All of you. You'll see what happens when you turn on family. We didn't turn on family, I said quietly. We just stopped letting you steal from us. The next morning, I woke up to my phone vibrating continuously on my nightstand. 63 new messages. 22 missed calls. The Morrison family group chat had exploded overnight into a nuclear wasteland of accusations and revelations. I scrolled through the messages, my coffee growing cold beside me. Aunt Melissa called my bank. They confirmed unauthorized access to my account 6 times. Filing police report today. Cousin Jake. Found $1,400 in charges I didn't make. All from after helping me set up autopay for my utilities. Uncle Paul. Diana, you need to call me immediately. We need to talk about some charges on my business credit card. The messages from Mom and Dad had stopped completely. Radio silence. But Tyler had sent me a private message at 3:47 a.m. My credit score is 510. I always thought I just sucked with money. But I just pulled my credit report. There are 3 credit cards I never opened. All maxed out. All in collections. Mom had me sign a bunch of insurance forms 2 years ago when I was drunk. I think she used my info to open accounts. Riley, what do? I stared at that message for a long time. Tyler, my younger brother who'd called me dead to him just yesterday, who'd spent years mocking my careful budgeting and calling me uptight about money. Tyler, who'd been a victim just like the rest of us. I called him. He answered on the first ring. His voice was raw, like he'd been crying. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I said. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I know, I said quietly. Tyler, listen to me. You need to file a police report for identity theft. Today. Right now. She's our mom, he whispered. I can't. She destroyed your credit score. She opened fraudulent accounts in your name. That's not just theft, Tyler. That's identity fraud. If you don't report it, those debts stay yours forever. Silence on the other end. Then, I don't know how to do any of this. I'll help you, I said. Get dressed. I'm picking you up in 30 minutes. An hour later, Tyler and I sat in the same police station where I'd filed my report 2 days ago. He looked smaller somehow, hunched over the forms Officer Chin had given him, his hands shaking as he wrote. Can I ask you something? He said without looking up. How did you know? How did you figure it out before it got this bad? I thought about the answer. I didn't actually. Not until it was already bad. But I work in finance, so I check my accounts obsessively. I notice patterns. And when something felt wrong, I didn't ignore it or make excuses. I investigated. I should have noticed, Tyler said. All those times Mom asked me to sign things, said it was for insurance or family paperwork. I was always too high or too drunk to read carefully. She counted on that. That's not your fault, I said firmly. She exploited your trust and your vulnerabilities. That's what predators do. He flinched at the word predator. She's still our mom. She's a person who committed crimes against her own children, I corrected. Those two things can both be true. Officer Chin returned and reviewed Tyler's completed forms. Mr. Morrison, based on what you've reported, we're looking at identity theft, credit fraud, and forgery. I'll be coordinating with Detective Ramirez, who's handling your sister's case. It appears your mother has been conducting a sustained pattern of financial fraud against multiple family members. What happens now? Tyler asked. The investigation continues. Given the scope of what's emerging, multiple victims, sustained pattern of behavior, significant dollar amounts, this is likely to be referred to the district attorney for prosecution. Your mother will be formally charged. Tyler's face went gray. Charged? Like arrested? Most likely, yes. We left the station in silence. Tyler sat in my passenger seat, staring out the window as I drove. Where are you staying? I asked. Are you still at Mom and Dad's? I was, he said. But I can't go back there now. I grabbed some clothes this morning while Dad was in the shower. Mom just sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. Didn't even look at me. You can stay at my place, I heard myself say. I have a couch. It's not much, but... Really? He turned to look at me. After everything I said to you? You were manipulated, I said. Just like everyone else. The difference is you're willing to face the truth now. My phone rang. Aunt Melissa's name appeared on the screen. Riley, she said when I answered, her voice tight and controlled. I need you to know something. After I filed my fraud report yesterday, I went through old emails. Every family member Mom has helped with online banking or bill pay. She's kept all their information. Passwords, account numbers, security questions. Everything. She has a notebook in her desk drawer with dozens of accounts listed. My stomach dropped. How many people? At least 15 that I've counted so far. Some are family. Some are friends from her book club. Some are neighbors she's helped over the years. Riley, we're looking at potentially over $50,000 in fraudulent charges across multiple victims over the past 5 years. $50,000. I pulled over to the side of the road, my hands suddenly unsteady. I've contacted everyone I found listed in that notebook, Aunt Melissa continued. Most didn't even know they'd been stolen from. Small charges, spread out over time, carefully calculated to stay under their radar. Your mother is good at this. Really, really good. This isn't desperation or confusion. This is systematic financial predation. After I hung up, Tyler looked at me with horror in his eyes. $50,000. From people who trusted her. It gets worse, I said quietly. If she's been doing this for 5 years, that's just what Aunt Melissa found documented. Who knows how long it's actually been going on? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Detective Ramirez. I need you to come to the station this afternoon. New information has emerged in your case. 3 hours later, I sat across from Detective Ramirez in a small interview room. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with gray streaking her dark hair, and she had the look of someone who'd seen everything and wasn't impressed by any of it. Ms. Morrison, she said, laying out a series of documents on the table between us. Your case has expanded significantly. We've now identified 18 victims of your mother's fraud scheme. The total amount stolen is approximately $67,000 over a 6-year period. I felt physically sick. $67,000. Your mother maintained detailed records, Detective Ramirez continued. Notebooks with account information, passwords, security questions. Email folders with confirmation numbers and receipts. She was meticulous. She's also been moving money between accounts to hide the trail, but our forensic accountants are unraveling it now. Is she going to be arrested? I asked. She already has been, Detective Ramirez said. This morning. She's being held on $100,000 bail. Multiple counts of identity theft, wire fraud, credit card fraud, and forgery. Your father is being investigated as a potential accomplice, though so far we haven't found evidence he was directly involved in the fraud scheme itself. Arrested. My mother was in jail. How long will she be in jail? The question came out smaller than I intended. That depends on several factors. If she posts bail, she could be out in a day or two. If convicted on all counts, she's looking at significant prison time. Oregon takes financial crimes seriously, especially when they involve vulnerable victims and abuse of trust relationships. What happens to the victims? Do they get their money back? Detective Ramirez's expression softened slightly. That's complicated. Some may recover funds through their bank's fraud protection policies. But much of the money was spent on maintaining their lifestyle, on Dad's failing business, on that Maui trip they were planning. There's very little left to recover. Most victims will suffer permanent financial losses. I thought about Cousin Jake, who'd been saving for a down payment on a house. Aunt Melissa, who'd been building her retirement fund. All those book club friends and neighbors who'd trusted my mother when she offered to help them with their online banking. There's something else, Detective Ramirez said. Your mother is claiming diminished capacity. Her lawyer is suggesting she has a shopping addiction, that she's not mentally competent to stand trial, that she needs treatment, not prosecution. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. She kept detailed notebooks. She carefully calculated amounts to stay under reporting thresholds. She moved money between accounts to hide the trail. That's not diminished capacity. That's premeditation. I agree, Detective Ramirez said. And that's what I'll be testifying to in court. But I wanted you to be prepared. This is the defense strategy. She'll paint herself as a confused, troubled woman who made mistakes, not a calculating criminal who systematically robbed her own family. That evening, I sat in my apartment with Tyler sprawled on my couch, both of us staring at our phones as the local news picked up the story. Portland woman arrested in multi-victim fraud scheme, read the headline. The article was brief, didn't name my mother yet, but it was only a matter of time. Everyone's going to know, Tyler said quietly. All our friends, our neighbors, people at work. Everyone's going to know our mom is a thief. Good, I said, and I meant it. Maybe it'll stop her from finding new victims. My phone rang. Dad's number. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. Riley. His voice was destroyed, hollow. Your mother made bail. Uncle Paul posted it. She's home. Okay, I said carefully. I didn't know, he said. I swear to God, I didn't know the extent of it. I knew she was spending too much. I knew we had debt problems, but I didn't know she was stealing. Not like this. Not from family. Did you benefit from it? I asked bluntly. The money she stole, did you use it? Did it pay your bills, fund your lifestyle, keep your business afloat? A long pause. Yes. Then you knew enough, I said. Maybe you didn't know the details, but you knew something was wrong, and you chose not to look too closely. What am I supposed to do? He asked, and for the first time in my life, my father sounded lost. Everyone in the family hates us now. Our neighbors are talking. I had to resign from the Business Owners Association. Your mother won't even come out of the bedroom. You face the consequences, I said. You sell the house you can't afford. You declare bankruptcy. You get real jobs with real income instead of pretending to be more successful than you are. You stop living a lie. That's easy for you to say. You've always had it together. I have it together because I never lied about my circumstances. I shot back. I lived in a tiny apartment and ate ramen for years while paying off my loans. I said no to things I couldn't afford. I built a life based on reality, not fantasy. You could have done the same. Your mother is sick, he said. She needs help, not prosecution. She's had 6 years to get help. She chose to steal instead. Dad, she destroyed Tyler's credit score. She stole from Aunt Melissa's retirement fund. She robbed elderly neighbors who trusted her. That's not sickness. That's criminal behavior with real victims who are really suffering. He hung up without saying goodbye. Tyler looked up from the couch. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, The family continued to fracture in new and unexpected ways. Uncle Paul, who'd posted Mom's bail, became a pariah himself. Aunt Melissa stopped speaking to him. The family whispered that he'd enabled Mom, that he should have let her stay in jail. Cousin Jake moved out of state, unwilling to face the embarrassment every time he ran into someone who'd heard about the scandal. Aunt Donna filed for a restraining order against both my parents, claiming she feared further financial exploitation. The family group chat, once full of memes and dinner plans, went completely silent. No one knew what to say anymore. The foundation of trust we'd all taken for granted had been revealed as a lie. And through it all, I went to work. I analyzed budgets. I attended meetings. I maintained my professional composure while my personal life imploded in slow motion. My boss called me into her office one afternoon. "Riley," Linda said, her expression concerned. "I've been hearing things about your family situation. Are you doing okay?" I thought about lying, about maintaining the wall between my professional and personal life. Then I thought about all the lies that had brought me to this point. "My mother has been arrested for fraud," I said. "She stole from me and from multiple other family members. It's going to trial. And no, I'm not really okay, but I'm functional." Linda nodded slowly. "I appreciate your honesty. And I want you to know that if you need time off or flexible scheduling, or just someone to talk to, I'm here. What you're going through, that takes courage to face." "Thank you," I said and meant it. "Also," Linda added, "the way you documented everything, built your case, protected yourself legally. That's exactly the kind of analytical thinking and attention to detail that makes you excellent at your job. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you're going to come through this stronger." I hoped she was right. The courthouse was brutally cold on the morning of my mother's preliminary hearing. I sat in the back row of the gallery, Tyler beside me, both of us watching as Mom was led in by her attorney. She looked smaller in her court clothes, a conservative navy suit that was probably borrowed, her hair styled simply, minimal makeup. The performance of a respectable woman wrongly accused. But I'd seen the evidence. I knew better. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Patricia Chun, no relation to Officer Chin, laid out the case with clinical precision. 18 victims. $67,000 in documented theft. 6 years of systematic fraud. Detailed records showing premeditation and planning. Mom's attorney, a public defender named Marcus Webb, argued for dismissal based on mental health grounds. My client suffers from a compulsive shopping disorder. She needs treatment, not incarceration. These were not the actions of a criminal mastermind, but of a troubled woman struggling with addiction. I watched the judge's face as she reviewed the evidence. Judge Martha Rodriguez was in her 60s, with steel gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd heard every excuse in the book and wasn't impressed by any of them. "Mr. Webb," Judge Rodriguez said, "your client maintained detailed notebooks with account passwords. She calculated charges to stay under fraud detection thresholds. She moved money between accounts to hide the trail. That level of planning and sophistication contradicts your assertion of diminished capacity." "Your Honor, addiction affects judgment." "Addiction doesn't create accounting skills," Judge Rodriguez interrupted. "This court finds sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Bail will remain at $100,000. Trial date is set for 8 weeks from today." Mom's face crumpled. Dad, sitting in the front row, dropped his head into his hands. As we filed out of the courtroom, I felt a hand on my arm. I turned to find Patricia Chun, the prosecutor. "Ms. Morrison, I wanted to thank you," she said. "Your documentation made this case. The bank statements, the recordings, the timeline you created, it gave us everything we needed to build a solid case." "I just wanted to protect myself," I said. "You did more than that. You protected 18 other people from further victimization. And you've set a precedent for how these cases should be handled. Family financial fraud is severely underreported because victims feel guilty for prosecuting relatives. You showed that accountability matters more than misplaced loyalty." As Tyler and I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "This is Sarah from your mother's book club. I just want you to know that what you did was brave. Diana took $3,200 from me over 2 years. I thought I was going crazy, forgetting payments I'd made. Thank you for speaking up. You gave me the courage to report it too." I showed the message to Tyler. "There are probably more," he said quietly. "More victims we don't even know about yet." He was right. Over the next 3 weeks, more people came forward. A neighbor who'd trusted Mom to help with her online bill pay. a woman from Mom's yoga class, a distant cousin, an elderly friend from church. The total climbed to $73,000. 22 victims. And through it all, Mom maintained her innocence, claiming confusion, memory problems, addiction. Anything except deliberate, calculated theft. The trial began on a gray Monday morning in late October. I'd taken the week off work, something I'd never done before. Linda had insisted. Some things are more important than quarterly reports, she'd said. Go deal with your family situation. Your job will be here when you get back. The courtroom was more crowded than I'd expected. News media had picked up the story. Portland mother accused of defrauding own family, and several reporters sat in the gallery, notebooks ready. Mom sat at the defense table, wearing that same borrowed navy suit, her hands folded in her lap. She looked like someone's innocent grandmother, not a woman accused of stealing $73,000 from people who trusted her. The prosecution's case was devastating in its thoroughness. Patricia Chun called victim after victim to the stand. Aunt Melissa testified about the $2,100 stolen from her retirement account. I'd been saving for 20 years. That money was supposed to help me retire. Instead, it funded Diana's lifestyle. Cousin Jake described discovering the fraudulent charges after Mom had helped him set up autopay. I trusted her. She was my aunt. It never occurred to me that she'd steal from me. Tyler's testimony was the hardest to watch. His voice shook as he described the destroyed credit score, the collection's calls, the 3 credit cards he'd never opened. My own mother, he said, tears running down his face. She got me drunk and had me sign forms. She told me they were for car insurance. Instead, she opened credit cards in my name and maxed them out. The defense tried to paint each victim as mistaken, confused, or vindictive. But the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, email trails, that damning notebook with passwords and account numbers. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand with my heart hammering. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Patricia Chin approached. Ms. Morrison, can you explain how you discovered the fraudulent charges? I described that morning 3 months ago, waking up to the banking notifications. The 3 first-class tickets. The changed email password. And what did you do when you discovered these charges? I called the bank's fraud department. Then I filed a police report. Did you hesitate? I paused, thinking about that moment in my kitchen. Yes, for about 10 seconds. Because filing a police report against your own mother isn't something anyone wants to do. But then I remembered that what she'd done was wrong, regardless of our relationship. What made you investigate further instead of just accepting it as a family misunderstanding? I'm a financial analyst, I said. I'm trained to look for patterns. And when I started looking carefully at my statements, I found months of small, unauthorized charges. Test runs. She'd been stealing from me for months, seeing what she could get away with. Marcus Webb, the defense attorney, approached for cross-examination. Ms. Morrison, isn't it true that your mother set up that recovery email to help you years ago? She set it up when I was 18. That was 11 years ago. And you never removed her access? I'd forgotten it existed, which I think she counted on. Isn't it possible that your mother genuinely believed she had permission to make purchases on your account? I looked directly at him. At 3 a.m, while I was asleep, for first-class tickets she'd told everyone were economy? No, that's not possible. Webb tried several more angles, suggesting I was vindictive, that I'd misunderstood Mom's intentions, that family dynamics were complicated. But Patricia Chun had prepared me well. I stuck to the facts, the evidence, the timeline. When I stepped down from the stand, I caught Mom's eye for the first time since the trial began. She was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before, pure, undiluted hatred. Not hurt, not betrayal. Hatred. It was strangely liberating. The mask had finally dropped completely. The trial lasted 4 days. On day 5, the jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. We all stood as the jury filed back in. I gripped Tyler's hand on one side, Aunt Melissa's on the other. On the count of identity theft in the first degree, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of aggravated theft in the first degree? Guilty. On the count of wire fraud? Guilty. 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 18 times, once for each count. Mom's face went white. Dad let out a sound like he'd been punched. Mom's attorney put a steadying hand on her shoulder. Judge Rodriguez set sentencing for 2 weeks out. Mom was remanded to custody immediately, bail revoked given the guilty verdict. As they led her out in handcuffs, Mom turned and looked back at the gallery. Her eyes found mine. "I hope you're happy," she said, her voice carrying across the quiet courtroom. "You destroyed your own mother." "No," I said clearly. "You destroyed yourself." The sentencing hearing was brief. Judge Rodriguez had clearly already made up her mind. "Mrs. Morrison," she said, "you systematically exploited positions of trust to steal from vulnerable victims, including your own children. You showed no remorse, instead blaming addiction and mental health issues you've been unable to substantiate. You've devastated lives, destroyed families, and violated the most sacred bonds of trust. You are sentenced to 8 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You are ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $73,000 to your victims, though this court recognizes that full restitution is unlikely given your financial circumstances. You are permanently prohibited from serving as a financial representative, power of attorney, or guardian for any person." 8 years. Mom would be 64 when she got out, if she served the full sentence. Dad sat frozen in the front row, his face gray with shock. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. I made a brief statement, Tyler standing beside me. "Financial fraud within families is more common than people realize," I said. "Victims often don't report it because of misplaced loyalty or fear of family judgment. I hope this case shows that accountability matters, that family relationships don't give anyone the right to steal, and that speaking up, even when it's hard, is the right choice." That night, Tyler and I sat in my apartment with Thai takeout. Neither of us could really eat. 8 years, he said quietly. "She'll miss everything. Weddings, grandchildren, if we ever have kids, holidays. Everything. She made her choices," I said. "Every theft, every lie, every manipulation, those were choices. And now she's facing the consequences. Do you think she'll ever understand what she did wrong?" I thought about Mom's expression in the courtroom, that pure hatred. "No. I think she'll always see herself as the victim, as persecuted by ungrateful family members. She'll never accept responsibility." "That's sad," Tyler said. "It is," I agreed. "But it's not our problem anymore." 6 months after the trial, I stood in my new apartment, a bigger one-bedroom with actual counter space and windows that let in morning light. The move had been partly practical, partly symbolic. A fresh start in a space that had never known my parents' dysfunction. Tyler lived 2 floors up now, in a studio he was renting while rebuilding his credit. We had Sunday dinners together, teaching each other recipes from YouTube, laughing at our mistakes. We were building something new, a sibling relationship based on honesty instead of shared dysfunction. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah, my co-worker who'd become a genuine friend. "Drinks after work?" I found a new wine bar. I smiled and texted back. "Absolutely." The past 6 months had been an exercise in rebuilding. Not just my credit, which had recovered beautifully once the fraudulent charges were removed, but my entire concept of what family meant. Aunt Melissa and I met for coffee twice a month now. She'd started a support group for victims of family financial fraud, and I sometimes spoke at their meetings, sharing my story, encouraging others to report and document. "You'd be amazed how many people are going through this," Melissa told me at our last coffee date. Adult children stealing from elderly parents. Parents stealing from their kids. Siblings, cousins, trusted family friends. It's an epidemic no one talks about. Uncle Paul had apologized, really apologized, not the non-apology. "I'm sorry you were hurt" variety. "I enabled your mother," he'd said. "I posted her bail because I thought family loyalty meant protecting her from consequences. I was wrong. Accountability is how we show real love." Not everyone had come around. Aunt Donna still wasn't speaking to me, convinced I'd torn the family apart. A few distant cousins sent me occasional angry messages about destroying Mom's life. Dad had moved to Arizona, living with his sister, working construction to pay off debts. We hadn't spoken since the sentencing. But the family I'd lost wasn't worth keeping. The new family I was building, chosen, honest, reciprocal, was worth everything. I opened my laptop and navigated to my budget spreadsheet. A habit I'd never break, checking numbers, planning ahead. But now the numbers told a different story. Emergency fund, fully funded. Retirement account, on track. Debt, 0. Credit score, 815. Last week, I'd received a letter from the restitution office. Mom was working in the prison kitchen, earning $1.25 an hour. They'd garnished 50% of her wages toward restitution payments. So far, She'd paid back $147 of the $73,000 she owed. At this rate, she'd be 127 years old before she paid off her debt. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mom had spent years chasing the appearance of wealth, and now she was literally making pennies while I thrived financially by living within my means. My phone rang. Tyler's name appeared. "Hey," I answered. "What's up?" "Credit score hit 680 today," he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "Lender said I'm approved for that secured credit card we talked about." "Tyler, that's amazing. That's incredible progress in just 6 months. I couldn't have done it without you," he said, teaching me about budgets and credit reports and all that stuff. I actually understand money now. It's like I was walking around blind before, and now I can see. "You did the work," I said. "I just showed you the path." "Listen," Tyler's voice got more serious. "I got a letter from Mom's attorney. She's asking if I'll write a letter supporting her appeal for early release, saying she's a changed person, that she deserves a second chance." My chest tightened. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to say no," he said firmly. "She destroyed my credit, Ree. She opened fraudulent accounts in my name. She got me drunk to make me sign papers. That's not a mistake. That's not addiction. That's calculated abuse. She hasn't even apologized. Her letters are all about how we ruined her life, how we're ungrateful, how the system is corrupt. Zero accountability." "I'm proud of you," I said, meaning it. "I'm proud of me too," he replied. "For the first time in my life, I'm actually proud of myself." That evening, I met Sarah at the wine bar. It was the kind of place I never would have gone to a year ago. Too expensive, not worth the money. But I'd learned something important. Sometimes you're worth the splurge. Not excess, not living beyond your means, but occasional joy without guilt. "So," Sarah said, swirling her glass, "I have to ask, do you ever regret it? Pressing charges, going through with the trial, all of it." I thought about it carefully. Sometimes I grieve what I thought I had. The fantasy of a functional family. But regret? No, because what I thought I had was never real. It was built on lies and exploitation. What I have now, honest relationships, financial security, self-respect, that's real. "You're kind of my hero, you know that?" Sarah said. "The way you handled everything. Most people would have just taken the hit, paid for the tickets, kept quiet to keep the peace. And I'd have taught Mom that she could keep stealing from me," I said. "That there were no consequences. She would have escalated. Eventually, she would have destroyed me financially. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing." My phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line made my heart skip. Restitution payment received. I opened it. Mom had made her second monthly payment. $58. $73,000 divided by $58. I did the math in my head. 1,258 payments. At one payment per month, that was 105 years. I showed Sarah, and she let out a low whistle. "That's depressing." "That's reality," I said. "The money was spent. It's gone. Most of us victims will never see full restitution. But that's okay, because this was never really about the money." What was it about? I thought about my answer. Boundaries. Self-respect. Refusing to participate in dysfunction. Choosing truth over comfortable lies. The money was just the evidence of a much deeper problem. Sarah raised her glass. "To boundaries." "To boundaries," I echoed, and we drank. 2 weeks later, I was working late at the office when Linda stopped by my desk. "Got a minute?" she asked. "Sure, what's up?" She sat down in the chair across from me. "I've been reviewing your work from this quarter. Your analysis on the Henderson account saved us from a significant bad investment. Your reorganization of the budget tracking system has increased efficiency by 23%. Riley, you're being promoted to senior financial analyst." I stared at her. "I what?" "You're getting a promotion. $15,000 raise, corner office, your own team to manage. You've earned it." Linda smiled. "Adversity reveals character. The way you handled your family situation, the integrity, the documentation, the courage to do the hard thing, that showed me exactly who you are. We need that kind of person in leadership." After she left, I sat alone at my desk, staring at my computer screen without seeing it. A year ago, I'd been the dutiful daughter, the family ATM, the person who kept quiet to keep the peace. I'd been financially stable but emotionally bankrupt, maintaining relationships that drained me while pretending everything was fine. Now I was a survivor, a prosecutor of family fraud, A woman with boundaries and self-respect and genuine friendships. And apparently, a senior financial analyst. I pulled out my phone and texted Tyler. Just got promoted. His response came immediately. That's awesome. Celebration dinner? I'm buying. Well, we'll split it. I'm still on a budget. But I'm buying my half. I laughed out loud in my empty office. That night, I updated my budget spreadsheet with my new salary. The numbers looked good. Really good. I could max out my retirement contributions. Build my emergency fund even higher. Maybe even start saving for a house. But first, I made a different kind of investment. I transferred $500 to Aunt Melissa's victim support group, and another $500 to a financial literacy program for young adults, turning my pain into purpose, using my experience to help others. My phone buzzed with a notification, an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line, "Thank you." I opened it. "Dear Riley, you don't know me, but I was one of your mother's victims. She stole $1,800 from me over 6 months. I'm an elderly widow on a fixed income, and that money was supposed to last me through the winter. When I heard about your case, I finally had the courage to report what happened to me. The prosecutor was able to include my case in the restitution order. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for showing that family doesn't mean tolerating abuse. You saved me from being victimized again. God bless you. Margaret H." I read the email 3 times, tears streaming down my face. This was why I'd done it. Not for revenge. Not for the money. For this. For Margaret H. and everyone like her. For all the people who'd been taught that family loyalty meant accepting abuse. Who'd been told that keeping the peace was more important than protecting themselves. Who'd suffered in silence because they didn't want to rock the boat. I'd rocked the boat. I'd capsized it completely. And I'd do it again without hesitation. Remember, you don't owe anyone unlimited access to your resources just because you share DNA. Financial boundaries are emotional boundaries. And the family worth keeping will respect the word no. Your hard-earned success belongs to you. Protect it fiercely.